Are we ready for some Turkish Grand Prix? Here we go. Let's see what we can do. So, it is wet again. It's wet again. Of course it is. Oh, we're already in the chat. Loving to see you guys. Hello. What's the weather conditions? Literally, just about to say. Ahead of me on that one. Yeah, it is literally just stopped raining by the looks of things. Obviously, FP3 was incredibly wet throughout. We had very mixed weather conditions, and it looks like that's just going to be very common for the rest of the season, apparently. Like, since Spa, I suppose Zandvoort wasn't wet, but apart from that, we've had mixed conditions pretty much every single race at this point. Like, we're just looking at wet weather conditions. Hungary was wet weather as well. Imola was wet weather as well. There's a lot of wet conditions and mixed conditions this season, and it could be again another wet qualifying today. So it's going to be close. If you looked at the FP3 times, Gasly was top of the leaderboard. Not sure he'll be top of qualifying again, but you know, we never see, we never know, we never know. It would be a very surprising P1 for him today in qualifying if he could get there. But qualifying is going to be interesting, especially because, again, we've got lots of drivers taking engine penalties, taking power unit penalties, and changing components on their car. So qualifying isn't going to be as massive for some drivers. I'm thinking like Carlos Sainz is going to have to start from the back of the grid however he qualifies. So is it even really worth his while going out a little bit like we saw with Max Verstappen last weekend, where he just went out for a little sighter, and because it was so wet, because the conditions were difficult and slippery, it wasn't really worth it for him to, you know, risk possibly making a mistake and shunting the car into the wall when you're going to be starting from the back of the grid anyway. So we might see a few more drivers take that sort of idea and take that line of thinking, with Carlos Sainz doing a similar sort of thing, I'd imagine, this weekend. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. Lewis Hamilton also has a 10 place penalty. And again, how does he sort of play that? Does he try and get pole position so that he starts from 11th place? Or because it's mixed conditions, because it's a little bit wet, you know, is there a massive difference for Lewis Hamilton starting 11th compared to like 15th or 16th? Probably not. You know, the cars that he needs to get past, like the Alfa Romeos, the Williamses, they're probably not going to put up too much of a fight anyway. So Lewis Hamilton needs to make that decision. Does he go out and try and get that pole position, possibly cause himself some issues in the wet weather? Or does he just, you know, take a 15, 16, 17 starting position, start just in front of the Hasses, get past the Williamses fairly easily, I'd imagine, and the Alfa Romeos as well, and then sort of get back into where he would be had he qualified first, which will put him 11th. So it's a bit of a weird weekend in terms of qualifying, and the mixed conditions definitely don't help things, because teams are going to already have big decisions on their hands, and now they've got tricky conditions as well. But let's sort of have a look. I'll pop the Drivers' Championship up because it's just getting incredibly close every single weekend. It seems like it's getting closer and closer between, well, all of the different battles we've got down the grid. Obviously, the battle for the championship between the top two, then the next three along, Bottas, Norris, and Perez, you could argue, are all battling for third place. Then we've got Ferraris, and whether the Daniel Ricciardo can catch both of the Ferraris in front of him after his incredibly rich vein of form since the summer break. You know, that fourth place in Spa, the win in Monza, a good showing last weekend in Sochi as well, considering the conditions. And, you know, we're looking at a really incredible battle all the way through the field. And then you're looking at Gasly and Alonso, who's going to come out on top of those guys. Whether AlphaTauri can keep themselves near the Alpines in the constructors as well. So many storylines. George Russell coming out of nowhere, putting himself up into 15th place. And suddenly, you know, 2 points behind Tsunoda. And if Tsunoda finishes behind a Williams, goodness gracious me, that does not look good on his CV, considering how slow the Williams car's been in the first half of the season. But it's completely come to life in the second half of the season. Latifi with 7 points, Raikkonen now just 1 point behind him. Could Raikkonen finish above Latifi by the end of the season? Needs to pick up a point somewhere if he can. It's just so much going on at this point, and my goodness me, there's too many storylines at this point with 7 races left to go. But we're all about qualifying this morning and all about qualifying today, seeing what's going to happen tomorrow. And I think tomorrow, again, it could be mixed weather conditions. Obviously, we didn't really expect rain this weekend. I know last weekend, some people started looking at the Turkey Grand Prix weather and were like, oh, maybe there'll be a bit of rain. But then it sort of looked like actually there wasn't going to be any. And now it's just tipped it down this morning. And FP3, there was a little bit of a red flag. It's all going off. It is all going off. But I'd love to know what you guys think is going to happen in qualifying today. Let's have a little look at the chat. Previous qualifying in Sochi wet conditions, Gasly got knocked out. That is very true. Although, you know, the AlphaTauri in Sochi last week looked bad. Like, looked very, very bad indeed. How long until Q1? We've got about 25 minutes, 24 minutes, something like that. George Russell surprised top Q3 again. Wait. Not top 3. I was going to say top 3 again from George Russell would be, like, astounding if he could do that. But I'm not sure he's going to qualify in the top 3. If he gets into Q3, I think, especially with the resurgence of the Williams car, George Russell, you know, is making Q3 a bit of a common occurrence now. It used to be like whether or not he'd be able to get into Q3, and Q2 would be impressive, Q3 would be like, wow. And now it's like Q3 is not expected, but we kind of we see Q3 as really reachable, as something that is very accessible to George Russell now after the summer break, whereas beforehand it was, you know, miles from him and he'd have to put up some kind of incredible showing to get in there. P6 for Ricciardo at the season's end. Of course you would say that. Of course you would say that. I mean, it's well within his grasp now. 9 points off Leclerc. Obviously, Carlos Sainz starting from the back of the grid tomorrow. So you'd assume Daniel Ricciardo is probably going to make up some ground on Carlos Sainz this weekend. It's well within his grasp. And as I said yesterday in the pre-race preamble, it's incredible that he's put himself in that position, because if you went back 5 or 6 races, everybody was a little bit disappointed in Daniel Ricciardo's season so far, right? Everybody was talking about Daniel Ricciardo's season at McLaren being a bit of a flop compared to what we were expecting to see. But now, all of a sudden, he's in and amongst with the Ferraris, and everybody's been talking about the Ferraris really positively. Everyone's been like, oh yeah, the Ferrari's been exceptionally good. Carlos Sainz has come in and been incredible, considering he's at a brand new team. Charles Leclerc continuing his rich vein of form in that Ferrari, and, you know, looks settled in Ferrari's team as that main driver moving into this year, the one with a bit more experience. So, my goodness me, we could see Daniel Ricciardo in that top 6. I think Sergio Perez and Lando Norris are a little bit too far out of his reach, but Carlos Sainz is right on the edge of where I think he could catch up. If Daniel Ricciardo finished this season with 150, 160 points, that might just put him just about in contention. I think that's probably what Carlos Sainz is going to end up with. I'm thinking like 6 more races, you know, gets like 8 or so points per race on average, Carlos Sainz, over those last 6 or 7 races, because I think he's come into this, you know, we've seen him get podiums now. We've seen him, you know, continually show that he can have that quality and get the points right up at the top end. There's probably another podium in this season for one of those Ferraris as well. Maybe even a win for one of those Ferraris, you'd imagine, some point this season. So it's going to be very tough for Daniel Ricciardo. But if there's one man who could do it, if there's one man on the grid who's suddenly just burst into form, definitely so. How long until it starts? What? Oh, qualifying. About 20 minutes. About 20 minutes-ish. Happy race weekend? Yes, so happy. Like, I genuinely, the weekends we don't have, qualifying and the race is just a bit boring, isn't it? Bit boring. What is the reaction towards the addition of the Qatar GP? I think obviously they needed to find. I sort of talked about it last week or the week before. When was Russia? A couple of weeks ago. The fact that they're obviously just going to try and find a racetrack in and around the right area of the world that they kind of need to be in for that time period. And Qatar was obviously the one that stood up and was like, yeah, we'll pay for Formula One to come along, and we'll pay for Formula One to just be in and around this country for a bit. And then obviously, isn't it from 2023 they've got a 10-year deal? So it kind of makes sense that Qatar were like, yeah, we'll have a Grand Prix early, even though our deal starts in a couple of years' time. Why not? And Formula One just want as many races as possible, like 23 in the calendar for next year. Again, it's a lot of races and a lot of triple headers as well, which are really, really strenuous on the teams, especially if you damage the car at any point over those 3 races. It becomes really tough for you to keep up that pace and continue the form that you need to be at the top in Formula One. But we never know. With Formula One, or well, we do sort of know. We never know whether or not they're going to go to certain places or which countries they're going to be in, but we do know that they will point themselves towards the cash if they can do, and bring in as much revenue as possible for the sport, which kind of makes sense because they're still trying to grow in a lot of different territories and a lot of different paces. Vettel Masterclass incoming. It is wet weather conditions. We're going to see those drivers right on the edge. It is the great equalizer. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes up. Gasly did so well in FP3. Yeah, top of FP3. Obviously, found a little bit more balance, especially after the last couple of weekends where he's been very critical of the AlphaTauri team and very critical of the AlphaTauri setup as well. Was it Sochi or was it in Monza where he, even on the radio, just said, like, we got everything wrong here. I think it might have even been when it started to rain in Sochi. He just told the team that it wasn't good enough. And he basically said, how are we the team that always gets it wrong? How are we the team that never... And there was a good thing. I can't remember who said it. It might have been WTF1, might have been Tomo, someone like that. But whether or not they just try too hard to go for a different option. So, like, thinking back to their Monza win, they went for a different option. They went for a complete gamble, and it went for them. And maybe they're just trying to replicate that too often. Like, they're trying to get this sort of idea of, oh, okay, well, it started to rain. Everybody's going on to intermediate tyres, so we're going to be the last team on the softs. And then if it does dry up, we'll easily win the race. And it's like, yeah, but the reason everybody's gone onto the intermediate tyres is because literally the radar says that it's going to rain for the next 15 to 20 minutes, and there's only 7 or 8 minutes of the race left. Like I don't get their thought process a lot of the time, and I think Pierre Gasly was quite rightly sort of within his rights to say, look, how come every time there is mixed weather conditions, how come every time there is a safety car or a change in race that, we always go against the grain. We always go for something different, and it never, ever works out in our favour. And he questioned that, and good on him, because Gasly's come out today, shown that he's got pace, especially in these wet weather conditions. He's probably going to be in the top 5 or 6 again in qualifying. That seems to just be where he puts himself, especially when he feels comfortable in the AlphaTauri car. And when it really clicks for him on a weekend, he's pretty much always in that top 5, top 6. And considering, the Alpines look quicker and quicker, Aston Martin have kind of dropped off a little bit. McLaren look quicker and quicker. Ferrari are 50-50 on whether they qualify incredibly well or incredibly poorly. Like, putting yourself consistently in that top 6 is a really good showing for Pierre Gasly, and could do it again today, especially after a really good FP3 performance. Has quality started? Not quite. We've got 15 minutes left to go. Verstappen pole, but Checo and Leclerc are my other candidates. Leclerc would be incredible, by the way. A 3rd pole position this season for him if he could put it on pole today. That would be very, very impressive indeed. In a season where, the Red Bull car has been incredibly quick and the Mercedes has been, incredibly quick as well. To put that Ferrari on pole is very, very impressive. YouTube hates to show notifications. Oh, that's a shame. But you're here now, so well done. You're here now, and you did it. Raikkonen is also not out of the mix. He's looking good in the rain. Vettel and Alonso. Yeah, I just don't think he likes that Alfa Romeo car, though, does he? It's really not his car. Darren Price says, howdy. Nice. Hello, mate. How we do? Everyone's boldest prediction for qualifying and the race. I don't think there's anything that's too bold. You can, like, especially after last weekend where it was just an absolute shambles and everything was all out of the window. Boldest prediction. I'm gonna go Alonso is in the top 4. Alonso's in the top 4. I reckon Alonso's either 3rd or 4th. I reckon Alonso's 2nd row of the grid. There you go. It's pretty bold, right? Alpine on the top 2 rows. I could see it today. I've just got a feeling about Alonso this weekend. And I wish I had the feeling for Alonso this weekend before, because I went for Ocon as my wild card. We'll pop up my genuine predictions for this weekend when I was sitting down on Wednesday and sort of planning out the streams and stuff. I went for Verstappen winning, Norris 2nd, Hamilton 3rd. I know Hamilton's starting from the back of the grid, but I still think, you know what, he's got enough pace and enough guile about him. You can kind of overtake here fairly comfortably, especially if you're in a Mercedes. So, yeah, I've gone Hamilton 3rd place. Perez, I've gone for best drive. I think Perez has had a couple of weekends where it really has not gone his way. So I'm expecting him to sort of turn back up and show. And yeah, I went Ocon wildcard, but I kind of wish now I'd have gone Alonso wildcard, because I thought the Alpines would look good here. And I thought the Alpines would look quick, especially in the race maybe. So maybe Alonso qualifying highly is a bit silly, but their race pace here, I think, will be really, really good. And that actually showed in FP1. If you didn't see, they were both in the top 10 very comfortably in FP1, and they ran on the medium and harder compound tyre, while everyone else was on the soft. So they do look very quick in terms of race pace. Yeah, I got Ocon wildcard and Tsunoda. I just can't see past Tsunoda struggling. Every time I look at the Drivers' Championship, I'm just like, how is Tsunoda just down there and Gasly is so far up front? And yeah, even George Russell, I think, might overtake Tsunoda. So very interesting indeed. How do I feel about Giovinazzi getting into Q3? I think it's definitely possible. He's done it. Oh, you've even said Zandvoort and Monza, but often screwed by strategy. He is very quick. He does qualify well, actually. I think if you actually look at the record, he's out-qualified Kimi Räikkönen a lot of this season. Like, I don't even think it's fairly close. I think he's qualified ahead of Räikkönen very, very consistently this season. But yeah, often doesn't do well on a Sunday. So it will probably be another really good qualifying performance from him. But maybe not a great Sunday, because that is just how his season sort of has been going. I put money on McLaren pole. Ooh, okay. Which of the McLarens, though? You gotta pick your poison. Rumors about Zhao getting into the Alfa Romeo seat. I think, you know, are building and building, aren't they? Oh, he's left Alpine. Okay. Probably then, yeah. I'd imagine he wouldn't leave Alpine unless the seat was pretty much guaranteed for him, would he? Bold prediction is going to be a Vettel podium. Love that from Theo. Love that from Theo. I don't believe we'll see errors from Merck or Red Bull like in Sochi. I hope not. I hope we can see some wheel-to-wheel racing between the Mercedes and the Red Bulls. They've sort of been on very different parts of the track over the last few races. Obviously, since that incident at Monza, we haven't actually seen Verstappen and Hamilton on the same bit of road, really. And Bottas just doesn't battle with Verstappen, does he? So maybe we might see some Hamilton-Perez battling at some point over the course of this weekend. That would be quite nice to see. Do you think that Lewis has a 100th win? We'll see a difference? No, I don't think so, Darren. I think Lewis is just a winner in the utmost way. So, like, he just does everything and anything he can. and he'll just keep going. He'll want to make that record unsurmountable, right? He'll want to get it as high as he possibly can so that no one ever gets anywhere near it. Because like, if you actually look, I think it's him on 100, and then Schumacher on 91, and then like the next best is on like 50 something. Like it was an incredible record to even match Schumacher, and now he's overcoming that and setting complete precedent that no one's going to get anywhere near for a very, very long time. Saying Alonso top 4 on the grid as the bold prediction. Yeah, I think so. I think the Alpines are going to go well this weekend. I've got some faith in the Alpines right now. I think Alonso's just coming back into a little bit of form. Ocon, since he got that new chassis in Silverstone, has had a few races where he's been a little bit sort of 50-50, but is still consistently picking up those points. And again, I think the reason that I just believe in Alpine is look at that like ability to pick up points. Alonso really close to Gasly now, and considering Alonso, wasn't really in and amongst it for the first 5 or 6 races or so. It took him a little while to get settled back into Formula One, and Ocon similarly started really well up until about Monaco, and then had like 3 or 4 races which were dismal for Ocon. So now we're looking at those two Alpines, and actually Alpine in the Constructors' Championship just tearing away now, getting ahead of AlphaTauri and giving themselves a good 20-point buffer. And that is a lot of points when you're in a midfield team. That is a lot of points but let's face it, Pierre Gasly is going to have to make up pretty much on his own if AlphaTauri are going to get anywhere close to the Alpine cars. So I think it's pretty much dead and buried in terms of 5th place in the Constructors' Championship for AlphaTauri. I think they'll be thankful that Aston Martin haven't been able to click into gear really, and look like they might hold on to that 6th place behind Alpine. My top 2 Japanese drivers, Kamui Kobayashi. Oh, Kamui Kobayashi. I remember Kobayashi as a kid and like absolutely loving him. He dived into corners. Like he was so good. So good. I don't really know what happened to it. It was at Le Mans this year, wasn't he? Didn't he win Le Mans this year, Kamui Kobayashi? But he sort of settled off into the distance, become one of those sort of flash in the pan Formula One drivers. He was there for like 2 or 3 years, if I remember correctly, and showed some really good pace at times, but never like clicked into that upper echelon, and never had the ability to like really put himself in the contention for one of the top seats in Formula One. Alpine, the most consistent team this year. Yeah. I don't know. They've had 50-50, as I said. They had like a bit of the season where Alonso was a bit rubbish. They had a bit of the season where Ocon was a bit rubbish. And now they're sort of both... They're both finally in a bit of form together, I think is the thing that's happening at the moment. And that's why Alpine are picking up points so consistently, is because both of those drivers are getting themselves ready and raring to go. Extreme prediction, 2 Hasses and 1 Ferrari out in Q1. Well, I mean, not so sure that is very extreme, considering Carlos Sainz probably won't bother with qualifying. And, I mean, I think a bolder prediction would have been maybe one of the Hasses to get through into Q2. Maybe a Mick Schumacher in these wet weather conditions where it's a little bit different and he's got an opportunity to, try something different. Could possibly see him get into Q2 for the first time in a long time. Risk of rain in qualifying at 100%. Loved it. It'd be nice if it came down sort of... What you want is you want it to sort of slowly dry towards Q3. So let's say if it rains in Q2, I think that's optimal, right? It rains in Q2, stops raining, and then the track slowly dries over the course of Q3. So like every lap, the drivers are just getting better and better and better and more consistent. But it also gets quite greasy and slippery. So you have the real cream of the crop rise to the top then. And the person who's got their car working in exactly the right way for them come into the absolute form. A little bit like what we saw in Sochi, to be fair, where it's sort of slowly drying up towards the end of the session. And those guys that have really got their balance right for this weekend do rise up to the top. I think it'd be nice to see that again. I doubt AlphaTauri will be Alpine. Yeah, I don't think so either. They might be beat by Aston Martin towards the end. I don't think so. I think it's probably gonna stay the way it is, to be honest. Alpine, AlphaTauri, Aston Martin. And I don't think Williams are going to be able to catch Aston Martin as much as they've come into some great form over the last few weeks. I'm not sure. How is the rain in Turkey? From what I can see, it's not raining right now, but it is expected. It is expected that it's going to rain fairly soon. Kamui Kobayashi did finish on the podium at his home race. Yeah, that's what I mean. He was a really good, consistent driver, but he was never going to be someone who started to push towards the top, the top 5 drivers on the grid, right? He was never going to be one of those drivers that demanded a top team seat. I think, midfield was the best he was ever going to get. He was a midfield driver for a little while, and then it sort of fell apart for him. I'll pop the track board up just because we're getting towards the race itself. Getting towards qualifying itself, and people sort of wondering about DRS and so on. We probably won't have DRS today just because it is so wet, but they are the DRS zones for tomorrow. So as I said, sort of sector 3 and sort of going down into turn 1 is the main overtaking areas that we've got. A couple of DRS zones back to back. Obviously at the sort of the entirety of the end of sector 2, start of sector 3, there is that DRS zone through there, and an opportunity to that's a really slow speed section at the end of the lap there. And then obviously the straight down towards turn 1, that long sort of turn 2 bend as well, where we could see lots of cars go side by side. So very, very interesting indeed going into tomorrow, and some good overtaking opportunities towards the end of the lap / start of the lap. That sort of middly sector there, trickier to get past people just because of the tight turns and so on. And I think that's maybe where we could see the likes of Red Bull specifically pick up some real pace today and really show where they are dominant. I think Max Verstappen's probably going to be quickest through sector 1, sector 2, and then sector 3, a little bit quicker. There's the straight in there. Possibly could go, back into Mercedes' favour. So going to be very, very close indeed. F2 has so many talents. That's why we need another couple of. We talked about Porsche yesterday, didn't we? We do need another couple of teams in Formula One just to get ready and raring to go, so that we can have a place for these drivers to go that are absolutely Formula One worthy and Formula One ready, but there just isn't the seat for them right now. And I think that is just the way it is. There's only 20 spots. That is how it is. Do I have a Twitch? I do indeed. Everything is linked down in the description below. There's a Twitter, there's a Twitch, there's an Instagram. It's all down there. Discord as well. Get involved. It's very, very fun. I try and stream Twitch when I can. I can't really at this moment in time. Haven't done for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, just because I have a real life job, and it's sometimes I don't find the time to stream on Twitch. But yeah, it's all down there, and obviously if you follow and turn on the little notifications, then you'll know exactly when I go live. I'm going to predict a top 6 finish in the quali for Stroll. Well, he was on pole here last year. So he obviously likes this track and will have fond memories of this track, as we see the guys lining up at the end of the pit lane. I think everybody's going to try and get out as quickly as possible before the rain starts to come. Everybody on soft tyres by the looks of things, so going out on the dry weather tyres, and Q1 now is underway. Wow. Let's see then. So these first few laps, these first few minutes are going to be hectic for these drivers, because if it is going to rain in the next 10 minutes or so, the second half of Q1 is basically going to be obsolete. So everyone needs to get in a lap as quickly as they possibly can. We're going to see so much traffic on the track as well. If Caterham and Manor Racing didn't get bankrupt, we'd have 12 teams by now. I mean, yeah, but Caterham and like who was it? HRT and was it Virgin or someone like that? I can't remember now. They were dreadful. they were awful. Like as much as it was good to have them in Formula One, they were not good. Not good at all. Will we see a reverse of Sochi? Wet at the last moment, change to slicks. I hope so. I hope we see a little bit of rain, maybe at the end of Q1, Q2, and then it start to dry for Q3 and have that real, battle in Q3. By the way, this is my first time watching the stream. How do you recommend I watch it? So actually, that is a great point. I will pop up a timer. So that timer there. Oh, why is it? There we go. That timer there is where I'm at in terms of qualifying. So qualifying right now, because there's a little delay on YouTube, it'll probably be a couple of minutes behind like live, if you know what I mean. So you can either like pause it, try and line it up, or you can, just listen to me react a couple of minutes behind where they actually are. So here we go. Q1. Rain expected in 3 minutes from Theo. Okay. So they need to go now. Like it is like one lap time. If they can get it in on the softer tires. There's still little damp patches though. Need to get the temperature in the tires as well. That's going to be the interesting thing for a lot of these cars, is whether or not they can actually get the temperature into these soft compound tires with the rainy conditions. Like it looks a bit cold as Lewis Hamilton tries to dive past the Ferraris and the AlphaTauri's Gasly. Gasly takes that place back from him. So Lewis Hamilton needs to wait his turn. And it is so, like, almost comes to a stop to try and give himself a gap. And that's what I mean. We're going to see lots of cars right at the end of this track here. And Hamilton messes up corner one. Messes up turn one. Oh, dear. Goodness me. If the rain does come for Hamilton, that is not good. Messed up that first sector already. Oh, and we've got a Ferrari as Carlos Sainz in the gravel just in front of Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton has to sort of get out of the way as Carlos Sainz comes back onto the track. So Carlos Sainz has gone off. That is not good for him either, although he is starting from 20th tomorrow. Independent. Not dependent on where he qualifies today. Yeah, the tyres are so cold. Carlos Sainz says, I don't know why they've really sent him out, to be honest with you. If he's starting from 20th tomorrow, just do a Max Verstappen. Just sit it out and wait for the teams to come in. It doesn't matter, right? Like, you don't really need to go. Yeah, YouTube's lag is pretty hefty, unfortunately. It's like a couple of minutes or so. Between live, and I think it's so like if I do anything untoward, YouTube can like cut it before anybody sees it. I think they literally like check over the and Max Verstappen, a big spin for him, and Lewis Hamilton as well gets all out of shape through turn 5. Is that turn 6 possibly? Ooh, there is no temperature in these tyres. Absolutely no temperature at all. Pierre Gasly goes P1 again in Q1. Lando Norris, though, going incredibly well in the McLaren, does indeed go fastest. Wow. So 5 minutes or so until the rain is expected. George Russell we're on board with now as Carlos Sainz does a 1:55 on the lap that he spun out. Daniel Ricciardo, not too great either, a 1:49. Alonso puts himself in the top 3 though. And Verstappen comes home in 7th. Ocon goes second fastest. I told you these Alpines looking good. It's currently 2nd and 4th, although Perez now puts himself into 3rd place. We're on board with George Russell as he comes around the final couple of corners. George Russell comes across the line and goes fastest. just 0.03 of a second in front of Norris. But remember, you just have to be in the top 15 in Q1. All we're looking for is the top 15 drivers. We are going to lose 5 drivers from this qualification session, as Mick Schumacher and Mazepin go 8th and 9th fastest themselves. Hamilton, though, jumps to the top of the leaderboard, puts himself first, finally gets a clean lap together by the looks of things. Tsunoda, Yuki, my boy Yuki, in 2nd place. Wow, goes faster than Russell, faster than Norris, and just behind Hamilton. Leclerc goes 4th fastest, still Russell in and amongst it, though. Russell still 3rd fastest, in front of some incredible cars behind him. Let's see what we can do then. Bottas as well, coming around the final couple of corners, goes 2nd fastest as we have 12 minutes left in this qualification session. Verstappen, Stroll, Alonso, Ricciardo, and Raikkonen, the guys that are currently out, as Ricciardo goes 3rd fastest and drops Gasly actually into that bottom 5. Verstappen goes 3/10, nearly 4/10 faster than Hamilton, puts himself P1. Ocon comes around again, goes 7th fastest. Stroll goes 5th fastest. Whoever in the chat, I can't remember now, was it Theo that said Stroll was going to go well? Looking pretty good for Stroll right now. Goes 5th fastest. Gasly, Alonso, Sainz, Leclerc, and Raikkonen are the guys that are currently out, though neither of the Ferraris has set a time. Their lap time was deleted for track limits. Lots of track limit stuff this weekend as well, as now we've got a couple more cars coming around, and Hamilton goes fastest still, 1:26.5, just 2/10 in front of Verstappen. But again, we're not too worried about the guys at the top. We're worried about the guys at the bottom for this Q1 session. Gasly gets himself out of that bottom 5, puts himself 2nd fastest, ahead of the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, and that'll be a sweet victory for Gasly if he can out-qualify some of the Red Bull guys today. And Hamilton comes around again. Oh no, it's Bottas. Sorry, Bottas goes fastest. Thought we were on board with Hamilton. It is indeed Valtteri Bottas, a 1:25.9, goes fastest of everybody. Lando Norris goes 2nd fastest, a 1:26. They're trying to get their fastest times in now. Verstappen only goes 3rd fastest of the guys out there. Is still quicker than Hamilton, though, as Alonso goes P4. Wow, woo-ah. Alonso P4. Oh, as we see Yuki Tsunoda in the grass. Whether he's hit the wall or anything, I'm not sure. But Yuki Tsunoda creeping back onto the track, does get the car going again. That's absolutely fine. Goodness gracious me. Yuki, you were going so well a minute ago. You're up into P2, now all the way down in P13, to be fair. As everybody's found some temperature in their tyres. We're looking at... Oh, let's have a look then at this Yuki Tsunoda incident. Oh, yeah. Completely loses the back end and goes across the gravel, across the grass, but luckily points it back towards... Ooh, yeah, those tyres are gone to bits. And a little bit of cutting of the grass from Yuki Tsunoda as well. Wiggles his way past the advertisement board and gets back onto the track, and hopefully can get back round to the pits and reset again, because he isn't looking too good as Yuki Tsunoda. Currently 14th place. George Russell, the man on the button, at this moment in time in 15th. Ocon, Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher, Mazepin, and Carlos Sainz are guys that are currently in the bottom 5. Oh, my goodness me. And Carlos Sainz going wide again in P20. Ooh, goodness me. If you swap Hamilton and Alonso's cars in the last 10 years, how many World Drivers' Championships would he have? Probably a similar amount to Hamilton, I'd imagine. Like, Alonso is very, very, very good. Let's not get that wrong. But Lewis Hamilton is also very, very, very good. So it's very tricky to say. Ooh, Lando Norris now saying that he's spitting more around the track. We have got 8 minutes left. This was around about when we expected the rain to come down. So people need to get in that lap time as quickly as possible, because those wet... Oh, Charles Leclerc goes fastest, a 125.7, 6 thousandths of a second ahead of Bottas, but they are the margins that get you into Q2 when you are Charles Leclerc. My goodness me, what an incredible drive from him. And Gasly goes even quicker still. Just singing the praises of Charles Leclerc. Let's sing the praises of Pierre Gasly as well. Pierre Gasly goes for a 125.4. Wow, Gasly fastest of everybody out there currently. So we've got Gasly, Leclerc, Bottas, Norris, and Verstappen, our current top 5. Alonso, Russell, Hamilton, Latifi, Perez, the next 5 down. Vettel, Giovinazzi, Ricciardo, Stroll, and Tsunoda, the guys that are probably looking behind them and hoping that Ocon, Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher, Mazepin, and Carlos Sainz cannot improve, because they are not having a good time at this moment. And Yuki Tsunoda has dropped down into that bottom 16. Carlos Sainz puts together a lap, goes 11th fastest, and Yuki Tsunoda is currently out if it ends now. Wow, Mick Schumacher comes in with a big time, goes 12th fastest, drops Stroll into the bottom 5. Oh my goodness me. Ocon goes fast as well, comes in 7th, drops Giovinazzi down into that bottom 5 now. So Vettel and Perez are the 2 drivers in 14th and 15th that are currently just on the edge. If somebody in that bottom 5 can improve, but it's going to be very, very tricky for them to improve, because I can now see the rain starting to tumble down. The cameras and the lenses getting covered in a little bit of the mist from the rain. Lewis Hamilton going for one last fast lap then. He is currently in 10th place. I think he'd be fairly safe in 10th place with the people that are behind him, but you never know when it comes to Formula One. So Hamilton not resting on his laurels and going for another quick lap before the rain fully starts to engulf the Turkish Grand Prix circuit. Verstappen on the radio. Oh, they think that the rain is dissipating over at Red Bull. So they think that it's going to improve over the next couple of laps. That is very interesting. A lot of teams will have pushed their, fastest times out right now. They'd have maybe, let the cars run on for a little bit longer, get the tyres warmer. And now we've only got 5 minutes left, and apparently the track is going to improve. Goes purple in the middle sector, does Hamilton. Again, not happy with 10th place, not settled with 10th place, and is a little bit concerned with the guys behind him. Latifi, Sainz, Mick Schumacher, Perez, Vettel, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Mazepin, and Hamilton goes fastest, a 125 dead, and 4 tenths ahead of Gasly, who was in P1 beforehand. So now we're looking at Hamilton, Gasly, Alonso as our top 3. Leclerc just outside in 4th place. Wow. Let's have a look at this replay. What's going on for Lewis Hamilton? Oh, gets all out of shape in turn 1. Bit of a wiggle for Lewis Hamilton. And Nikita Mazepin, what's going on with him? Oh, and a big spin for Mazepin as well. Darts across the pit lane, actually. The pit lane exit there. Again, gets it wrong in turn 1. Darts across the pit lane exit. Just about grabs it before it bumps into the barriers. So Mazepin is at it again and is currently in 20th place. Or is though on an outlap. So Giovinazzi, Stroll, Tsunoda, Raikkonen, and Mazepin are our 5 that are out at this moment in time. Can they find some pace? Stroll now in 17th currently. We're on board with him. Can he get in front of his teammate Vettel and drop him down into the bottom 5 instead? What are we saying in the chat? Working out what tyre they're using right now. They are on the soft compound tyre still. Even though it was trickling with rain a little bit, they've got the soft compound tyres on. need to get the slicks going and a little bit of temperature in the slicks. I think a lot of people are struggling for temperature as Yuki Tsunoda goes 9th fastest. Stroll goes 13th, and that means that Perez and Vettel drop down into the bottom 5. Not good showing for Sergio Perez in qualifying so far. Verstappen goes fastest of everybody, but we're interested in where Sergio Perez can puts himself in 4th. Very, very good lap from Perez there. Not too shabby at all. And now the driver at risk is Carlos Sainz all of a sudden in 15th place. Mick Schumacher 16th. Vettel 17th. Vettel will really want to get out of Q1 today. Does not want to be that driver that drops down. But the Aston Martins just look nowhere near everybody else on the field. And even the Williamses look a lot better than the Aston Martin cars. Williams, where is Russell? Russell's in P9 currently. Latifi 13th. And Stroll in 14th. So both Aston Martins are behind the Williams cars, which is just astounding considering where they were at the beginning of the season. It's not applicable better than Crofty. Sorry, don't know his name. My name's James, if you want to know. That is fair, though. But yeah, appreciate that, mate. What quali are we in? We're still in Q1. We've got a minute and a half left. Hamilton just gone fastest. Mick Schumacher currently the man in 16th place that is trying to trouble the cars in front of him. Latifi goes quicker still, puts himself in 10th place. So both of the Williamses are currently in the top 10. Wow. Wow, just Williams out of nowhere. They really have come together in the last few races. Since the summer break, Williams just looked like a proper good midfield team. All 20 drivers are on track right now. That is very true. They are all out on track. I think it's because they were worried that the track was actually going to get wetter. Instead, it looks like it's drying up a little bit more. We've got still a little bit of the spray, some of the water vapor as the cars come around, specifically the middle sector. There's a lot of spray. But we're looking at Daniel Ricciardo, currently in 13th place, as we have 30 seconds left right now. He's using all of the DRS down the back straight. Comes in to the final sector. Couple of little corners to get around. And a final left-hander again for Daniel Ricciardo. Is it going to be quick enough to improve on his time? He is going to get across the line with enough time to get a lap in. He goes 9th fastest, so just in front of both of the Williams cars. Verstappen, by the way, just had a lap time deleted and drops down to 10th place. But the checkered flag is out. Let's see then. So Stroll is going to be one of those guys that comes across the line and is in and amongst the battle for the bottom 5. Ocon goes across the line, goes 6th fastest. Hamilton currently 1st. Stroll comes across the line, goes 8th fastest, which puts Carlos Sainz down into the bottom 5. Mazepin and Raikkonen are going to be out. Giovinazzi comes across the line. Can't improve, though. Still 15th for him. So it's Vettel, Mick Schumacher, and Carlos Sainz that are going to be battling to get into that top 5. Yuki Tsunoda goes 6th fastest. What a great lap from Yuki Tsunoda. Guarantees himself a place. Verstappen goes 2nd fastest. But as I said, we're more interested in Sebastian Vettel as he comes around in the final couple of corners. He's going to come around to the final left-hander. What can Vettel do? Goes 12th fastest, gets himself through, drops Giovinazzi down. Mick Schumacher comes across the line and goes 11th fastest. Drops Latifi down into the bottom 5. Mick Schumacher looking at a Q2 performance. Can Carlos Sainz get it there, though? Ricciardo, currently the man on the button. Carlos Sainz coming around the final couple of corners. A 126. He does. Whoo! Carlos Sainz gets there in 9th place. It's Daniel Ricciardo in 16th is going to drop out. A massive upset for Daniel Ricciardo after, since the summer break, he's looked really, really good. Daniel Ricciardo, he's going to be very disappointed in that. So it is Ricciardo, Latifi, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, and Mazepin, which are the guys that drop out. Vettel just gets himself through with the Aston Martin car. Mick Schumacher in a Haas by the way, has got himself into Q2, finished that session in 14th place. So ahead of Vettel and just behind Stroll as well. Wow, that was a hell of a session. And some real surprises in there. Mick Schumacher, take a bow in that Haas that is just awful as well. Manages to get in there. Kimi Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, both Alfa Romeos out as well. Latifi might be a little bit frustrated. Latifi, because Williams, it looks pretty good. His lap times were pretty good, to be fair, for most of that session, but he couldn't just quite gain as much as everybody else around him. Maybe, again, some temperature issues with the tyres, possibly, or I don't know. Just didn't go right for Latifi, unfortunately. But here we go. Could we see Gasly finish P3 in the race? I would love to see Gasly. Love to see Gasly on the podium again. Mick into Q2. Let's see how we're doing then. Prediction was completely destroyed. Yeah, neither. Or one Haas, no Ferraris out in Q1. So, not your day, unfortunately, mate. Don't buy a lottery ticket. Mick and Russell, though. Yeah, Mick and Russell both through to Q2. We'll be battling it out and seeing if they can get into Q3. Russell and Schumacher, everybody's just all over. Russell and Schumacher. Tsunoda as well. Yeah, Tsunoda hasn't been in Q2 overly often this season. It is usually Tsunoda is the man that drops out of those sort of top teams. You know, usually it is both Hasses and Alfa Romeo, Williams, and then Yuki Tsunoda. So it's one of those kind of things. But here we go. A little bit of a turn up for events in terms of Mick Schumacher getting through to the second qualifying session. There we go. If ever you needed some boost, you Mick Schumacher fans, this is it. Maybe he could find a way to get himself into Q3. Especially if it's mixed weather conditions. If it starts to rain suddenly in Q3 and he can get himself in and amongst it, why not? Why not go for it? Just the way that it is. Let's see then. How long we got until Q2? Probably not too long, actually. Should probably get that up. Mick Schumacher. Oh, let's listen to the radio. An ecstatic Mick Schumacher. Only 1 second from Hamilton to Mick Schumacher. Yeah, it's close. It was really tight because it was still the middle sort of sector, that second sector, if I show you on the trackboard, that sort of middling sector. So from the blue arrow, or from the blue line across, that middling sector was all very damp, and there was still quite a lot of puddles and still some slippery areas of the track. And that was a real equalizer, I think, for everybody. And slowed down quite a lot of the cars you'd expect to be a lot quicker than they were. But yeah, Mick Schumacher took well advantage of that. There's a chance Mick Schumacher in a Haas to get pole. I'm not so sure. Oh, no, wait, yeah, I guess Hamilton can't get pole, can he? I was like, hang on. Mick Schumacher is not going to out-qualify Lewis Hamilton. But actually, if Mick Schumacher can get, what, like 13th? And Hamilton can only qualify 3rd or 4th? Then technically, actually, because Hamilton will drop down 10 places, we could see Mick Schumacher. A Schumacher in front of Hamilton for the first time in a very, very long time. Gotta go bold with your predictions, to be fair, and sometimes they just don't turn up the way you wanted them to. Ricciardo fans are disappointed. Yeah, I'm really disappointed, actually, with that. Really disappointed with Ricciardo there. He's been so good since the summer break, to be fair. That 4th place in Spa, and I was suddenly like, oh, hang on. This is something new for Daniel Ricciardo. A 4th place in Spa, and then obviously goes on to win a race in Monza in a McLaren, and I'm like, yes, this is Daniel Ricciardo, back to his best, absolutely flying. And then now we've come back again, and unfortunately not quite there. Afternoon, you have not updated your list. Updated my list. What list? Jim, what list? Tell me what list, Jim. I'm not sure what you mean. This has to be a record for the most wet sessions in F1 in a season, surely? Ooh, possibly, possibly. It has been very wet. It does seem like a lot of rain, especially since the summer, well, including Hungary as well, which was just before the summer break. Lots of rainy sessions, lots of rainy qualifyings, lots of rainy races since then. And especially in a season where we had Spa, which was the rainiest of races that we possibly could have had. Here we go then. Q2 is underway for people lining themselves up with myself. I've got 14 minutes and 35 seconds on the clock. Lewis now has a huge, gigantic apparatus they're using when he parked. Fair. Mallory always notices the strangest little things as we go around. Like I just wouldn't pay attention to anything like that, but yeah. Haas finally get their Q3 set. Not sure. I think Mick Schumacher, if he can get 13th, yes, to be fair, Mick Schumacher getting 15th is phenomenal. The timing list in order of position qualified. Oh no, this was the Drivers' Championship. That's not the qualifying list. That's the Drivers' Championship. I can do the Constructors' Championship if you want. Pop that up there. Yeah, so that's not the drivers list, unfortunately. We're working on that. We are working on that. Believe it or not, I'm trying to find out how to write code because we want to do it legally. We want to do it in a way where we're not just, basically stealing Sky's stuff. Laptop has crashed, so I can't watch the race. Only hear it through James's narration. Well, I'll try and keep you posted. We've got 13 minutes and 5 seconds left in Q2. Obviously, no one has set a lap time yet, but lots of drivers coming out very, very early indeed. Hamilton coming out on the medium compound tyres, actually. I'll type everything into chat for you. Live narration from the chat. Just type everything down. Do you feel like it's been a very long time since Alonso's podium and race win in 2014, last win in 2013? I mean, it has been a very long time. You got to remember, he did have a couple of years outside of the sport. He had a couple of years at McLaren that were just doggedly bad. And yeah, not sure. Not sure Alonso could have picked up a podium under those circumstances, to be fair. But now we're getting towards Alpine, possibly fighting for that podium. Obviously, when they were Renault, that was their main thing, right? They just really wanted to win a race, mainly with Daniel Ricciardo, before he hopped over to McLaren. Bottas going purple in the first and second sector. Yeah, you're right, Theo. Hamilton is maybe trying to find a little bit of temperature in these medium compound tyres is becoming a little bit difficult. He is sort of wiggling around all over the place. Yellow flags in sector 1. Not sure what that's for, though, as Hamilton comes across the line a 129 and Bottas goes across the line for a 124. So, my goodness me. Gasly goes second fastest. 6 tenths in front of Bottas. Sorry, behind Bottas. Ocon goes third fastest. I mean, to be fair, Hamilton's time is pretty dreadful. So, I'd imagine everybody who comes across the line is going to go a lot faster than Hamilton. Ooh, as Sergio Perez does a Yuki Tsunoda and gets it wrong and spins out, has a little trip across the asphalt and then cuts some grass as well. Keeps it out of the hoardings, though, and does a little bit of a wiggle around, gets himself back on track. Sergio Perez, yeah, doing pretty much exactly what Yuki Tsunoda did in the last session there. Although Tsunoda comes across the line, is 4th fastest right now. Leclerc is 6th. Hamilton 7th fastest. But Hamilton, as I said, a pretty slow lap from him. So he will be looking to improve. Ooh, Lando Norris, 9th fastest. Not a good lap from him at all. Vettel, 8th fastest as well. Not great from him. Here we go, though. Verstappen on a quick lap, coming through this first sector. Goes for a little puddle. See a tiny little bit of spray on those medium compound tyres. Can he make it work? Mick Schumacher, by the way, if you're Haas, do you just go for it? Do you just go soft compound tyres, try and get yourself into Q3? Like, why not? Balls to the wall. Everybody towards the front, your Bottas's, your Hamiltons, your Verstappens, all on the mediums. Go for some softs. Go for it. As Verstappen goes fastest in the first sector by a 10th and a half. So a good little buffer that Verstappen has now on Bottas's current top time. Vettel does come across the line, goes 5th fastest. So gets himself comfortably in the middle of the pack. So does Lance Stroll, gets himself into 6th fastest, just behind his teammate by 0.04 of a second. Mick Schumacher comes across the line and goes 7th fastest, and Leclerc pops himself up into 4th. So currently it is Verstappen, Norris, Russell, Perez, and Sainz that are out. I don't think Carlos Sainz will come out for this session, to be honest. Hasn't set a time yet, and I haven't seen him out on the track. Although I might be wrong. Norris comes across the line 3rd fastest, but we're on board with Verstappen, goes quickest, a 1:24 dead. Goes across the line for Verstappen. Bottas goes into 2nd. Yeah, exactly. Haas have absolutely nothing to lose, right? So they might as well just go balls to the wall, try and get themselves into that top 10. Hamilton goes 4 tenths faster than Verstappen, finally finding a little bit of temperature in those medium compound tyres by the looks of things, as we have 8 minutes and 35 seconds left to go. Oh, my timer. I didn't do the timer. Yeah, I just didn't do that. yeah. I just didn't do that. Might have to be a Q3 thing. Sorry, Theo. Yeah, completely forgot about that. Apologies, mate. Thank you for spotting it, though. If I was Lewis, I would not waste my tyres. No, Hamilton needs to. He's only got a 10 place penalty. It's not like he's starting from the back. However, like, I think the reason Carlos Sainz shouldn't have bothered coming out is because he's going to start from the back. However well he does, Hamilton could start, first. Could start anywhere from 11th to 15th now, right? So Hamilton, it takes too long to get temperature in his tyres, and I think he's spot on, to be honest. Ooh. Tsunoda is on the soft compound tyre, actually. Where's Mick Schumacher? Oh, he's in the pits, so it's not showing what tyre he's on. That is fair. Hamilton on the medium. Alonso, 3rd fastest, currently on the medium compound tyre as well. Bottas on the medium. Gasly on the medium. Lots of medium compound tyres, but Yuki Tsunoda currently on the soft. So going for a different strategy. Possibly just trying to get Tsunoda into the top 10 so that they can have someone go on an alternate strategy to Gasly. So remember, if you're in the top 10, you have to start on the tyres you set your fastest lap with in this session. So lots of drivers go for the medium because it gives you a bit more option tomorrow and a different strategy choice for tomorrow too. 7 minutes left. Yeah, 6 minutes and 38 seconds for me. Currently, Vettel, Stroll, Mick Schumacher, Russell, and Sainz currently are bottom 5. Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Alonso, Gasly are top 5. And Tsunoda, Norris, Perez, Ocon, and Leclerc. Leclerc currently the man in 10th place, although he is on track and trying to improve his time because, he's going to have both Aston Martins bearing down on him fairly soon. Hello, Manev. How we doing, mate? Oh, as Leclerc spins on the final corner, so he's not going to improve his time. Oh, that is not good if you're a Charles Leclerc fan, unfortunately. He is now in 10th place and right on the button. What have you missed so far? You've missed Mick Schumacher getting himself into Q2. You've missed Daniel Ricciardo dropping out in Q1, unfortunately. So, Schumacher. Ooh, and yeah, Charles Leclerc just gets it all wrong, and it's right at the end of the lap as well. That is not good if you're a Charles Leclerc fan. The Monaco man doing a little spin right on the final corner. Not sure, what really went too wrong. Maybe got on the power a little bit too early. Not sure, but not great if you are a Leclerc fan because he is right on the edge now, and Leclerc coming around. Struggling with downforce on the medium compound tyre is Charles Leclerc. And now it's whether or not, do you come in if you're Charles Leclerc, put some soft compound tyres on and see if you can make it happen on those and guarantee yourself a top 10, because he's looking to be struggling on a weekend where Ferrari were looking pretty good in free practices. But maybe this wet weather has sort of put a spanner in the works for the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Obviously, Carlos Sainz starting from the back of the grid anyway and isn't bothering to come out in Q2 because he knows he's going to be starting 20th, whatever happens. It'll be huge if you can get into Q3. It'll be massive for Yuki Tsunoda. He needs a confidence boost, doesn't he? It just looks like he's spiraling into nothingness. And I've kind of like half jinxed him. I've gone for Tsunoda as my struggle of the weekend. And, you know, I've said that, and therefore it won't come true. So Yuki Tsunoda's probably going to go on to get his first podium in Formula 1. But there we go. Schumacher Q3 is a must. Absolutely not. If you're Schumacher, you are over the moon to get into Q2. Q3 is a pipe dream if you're in a Haas at this point. Hopefully Gasly qualifies above P5. I think P5 would be very good for Gasly, to be honest with you, in an AlphaTauri. Position is Charles Leclerc is right in 10th place, properly on the button, in a lot of trouble if anybody behind him improves, as George Russell doesn't quite knock Charles Leclerc out, goes up to 11th fastest. Vettel and Stroll about to come across the line though. Vettel goes 12th fastest, can't really improve too much. We're looking at Mick Schumacher. Lance Stroll goes 7th fastest and knocks Leclerc down to P11. Now, this is interesting. Charles Leclerc now is dropping out of Q2 if he can't improve his time. Mick Schumacher coming around too. We're looking on board with Verstappen now. Verstappen's gone fastest in the first sector. Remember, Q2, you just don't want to be in that bottom 5. It's all about being in the top 10. Don't worry about the top guys at this moment in time. We're just worried about that bottom 5. The medium compound tyre, Verstappen doesn't really do much. Goes very slow in that final third sector and doesn't improve in any ways. Considering he was purple in the first sector as well, that's a little bit disappointing for Verstappen. Perez, though, his teammate, goes 3rd fastest, just behind both of the Mercedes. Alonso currently 5th, Gasly 6th, Tsunoda 7th, Stroll in 8th, Lando Norris in 9th place, and Ocon all the way down in 10th. So Ocon, that man that is under pressure. Carlos Sainz still in the garage. Don't think he's going to be going out anytime soon, as we've got 2 minutes left of Q2. Charles Leclerc, Russell, Vettel, Mick Schumacher, and Carlos Sainz currently the guys in the bottom 5. Alonso goes fastest in the first sector. My goodness me. Let's have a look then. Can we see? Why isn't Carlos Sainz coming out? So he is taking a power unit penalty for tomorrow. So he has to take a grid penalty and will start from the back wherever he qualifies. So it doesn't really matter where Carlos Sainz qualified today, because he is always going to start from P20 no matter what tomorrow. Cole. So yeah, he's not bothering to come out because there's no real need to be honest with you. Turn 8 is really tricky. There's still, that's what I mean, in that second sector, there's still a little bits of wet patches. Even down into turn 1, there's a bit of straight. Ooh, who's that in the gravel? One of the Aston Martins. I think it's Lance Stroll. It is Lance Stroll. Going wide in turn 1 and going across the grass, taking the Yuki Tsunoda route through that first sector. Obviously, Perez has done the same. Everybody having a little go on the grass there. That grass is going to be immaculate. It's going to be cut to an inch of its life after everybody's had a little go through there. Lance Stroll. Ooh, yeah, it's not great from him. Just completely gets that wrong. 30 seconds left then in Q2. Those guys that get across the line will be able to set their final lap time, but they only have 20 seconds now to get across the line. Thanks for the explanation. No problem at all, mate. That's what I'm here for. George Russell currently coming around the final sector. Will he get across the line in time to put in another lap? He gets it all wrong in the last corner. Oh, and George Russell, that's going to be the end for him. George Russell's going to be out of this session. Sebastian Vettel, though, is going to put himself in 10th. So knocks Ocon down into the bottom 5. But Vettel is the man under pressure. Vettel is not going to be able to improve on that time and is in 10th. So we're on board with Charles Leclerc now. Needs to improve on Vettel's time in 10th. Oh, and they're using... Oh my goodness, they're using Carlos Sainz to give Charles Leclerc a bit of a tow. Wow, that is some Ferrari tactics if ever I have seen it. Charles Leclerc getting a little tow from Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz, who isn't even going to set a lap time. And Charles Leclerc goes 7th fastest with help from his teammates. So it's Vettel, Ocon, Russell, Mick Schumacher that are currently out, as well as Carlos Sainz. Ocon, I think, is in the pits, so it's going to be all over for him. George Russell messed up that final corner. So that is going to be our 5 that are out. Vettel, Ocon, Russell, Mick Schumacher, and Carlos Sainz never even bothered to set a time, but did come around just to help out his teammate and give his teammate a little bit of a tow through the fast bits. Wow. Some great tactics there from Ferrari. Not something that I was expecting. But yeah, Carlos Sainz literally came out in that session purely and simply to help Charles Leclerc get into the top 10. That was very intelligent from Ferrari. And some great team tactics between them. George Russell frustrated and annoyed with himself. Again, that final corner, Charles Leclerc did the same thing. George Russell saying that was a good lap as well. So frustrated with himself that he couldn't get it round. Oh, yeah. And it's the tiniest little mistake. It's just a little bit of grip drops off, and that is Russell out of the session in Q2. So Carlos Sainz, Mick Schumacher, Russell, Ocon, and Vettel are our 5 that don't make it through into the top 10. Wow. Here we go then. The top 10, where it all counts. Obviously, remember, Lewis Hamilton has a 10-place penalty, so he needs to get as high up as he possibly can, because he needs to... Obviously, even if he gets pole position right now, he's actually going to start in 11th place. So Hamilton needs to get as close to the top as he can because of that 10-place penalty. Really good stuff. Yeah, Ferrari move was really intelligent. Not something that I'd even thought of, like here. But yeah, using Carlos Sainz as someone to give Charles Leclerc a tow down the sort of back straight or so. Wow, very intelligent from Ferrari indeed. Ocon needs to be better race, because I think the Alpines generally do have better race pace than qualifying pace, though, don't they? So I think the Alpines will be fine. Obviously, Alonso putting together another good qualifying performance. Ocon not quite there for Ocon, but yeah, I think he'll be fine in the race, and will probably make up a few places once he gets going. Obviously, he could start just next to Hamilton. He'll be in and around where Hamilton will be starting tomorrow. Carlos Sainz obviously dropping down to 20th. Also gives Mick Schumacher a little bit of a buffer. Doesn't have to worry about Ferrari being right behind him, but will have to worry about a McLaren being right behind him instead. So not sure if that's a positive or a negative if you are Mick Schumacher. Why didn't Hamilton take a new PU? Probably just because he didn't need to at this point in the season. We never really know, because obviously after crashes and collisions and impacts throughout the season, you never really know how much damage has been done to each component inside of the power unit or each component on the car. So I think Mercedes were playing it a little bit safe, and they were like, should we take a 10 penalty or start from the back in a season where we need every single point that we can? You know, looking at the constructors, they are ahead, but only just. It's 33 points between them. And, you know, one really bad weekend for Mercedes, and suddenly it's Red Bull back on top again. So They're probably just playing it a little bit safer by only taking the 10-place penalty rather than a full drop to the back of the grid. Hopefully tomorrow is a dry race. I don't want any more rain. I don't want any rain after Lando Norris's rain last weekend or the weekend before. Keep saying last weekend, mainly because I did nothing last weekend and therefore it just sort of paled into nothingness. Theo with the update on the thing. Remember though, Carlos Sainz is going to drop to P20, so Mazepin actually starts P19, and we don't know where Hamilton is going to slot in and amongst those as well. But yeah, current order for qualifying, you are spot on there, Theo, to be fair. Mazepin, Kimi, Gio, and Latifi, with Ricciardo as well dropping out in Q1. And Carlos Sainz, Schumacher, Russell, Ocon, and Vettel dropping out in Q2. Actually, let me get the timer set up because I completely forgot to do that for the last session, and I won't forget to do it again for this one. We're ready. We're ready. I need to get like a little monitor here so I don't have to look at the one all the way in there. But there we go. These are things that are slowly going to adapt and happen as the stream comes to fruition. Yeah, so everybody from Sainz backwards will move up a spot because Sainz will drop down into 20th place. You predict that Merck will win the Constructors' Championship just because of Bottas versus Checo. How close is it again between Bottas and Checo? Yeah, 31 points. So pretty much that entire... Well, yeah, that makes sense because there's only 2 points between Hamilton and Verstappen, obviously. So, yeah, I kind of agree. Although Perez has ifs and buts, and, you know, Perez has won a race this year. Bottas has not won a race this year. And Bottas has not looked very good at all. Like, especially in Russia, I was really disappointed with how slow Bottas was, to be honest, during the race. So, I'm not sure. I think it will get closer before it gets further apart. Imagine Alonso on the front row. I went for my bold prediction at the beginning was Alonso second row of the grid. Second row was my prediction, I think, if I remember correctly. So third or fourth. Nice plug socket behind your left arm. How do I hide it? Look casual. Yeah, that's where everything is plugged. Like, literally, if I turn that off, everything that you're seeing would just stop. that is holding us together in every single possible way. Yeah. Crazy that Bottas gets so much hate when you compare him and Checo. I don't think he gets hate. I think it's just... I'm disappointed with Bottas. Like, if you're thinking Bottas this season has been at Mercedes for a long time. Like, I just expected more from him in his final season at Mercedes. But maybe that's me being a little bit too... having too high an expectation for them. You don't think Mercedes will win the Drivers' Championship because of the incident with the brake magic incident? Oh, yeah, that is very true, Jim. Yeah, Hamilton really did mess up Azerbaijan. Really messed that up for himself. Red Bull front row would be really good, especially with the livery is very nice indeed. Someone on Twitter pointed out the yellow to me though, and now I just can't not see the yellow trim, and it does kind of ruin it a little bit. If it was just white and red, I think it would look a lot nicer than it does with that little bit of yellow sort of sprinkled in. But we are underway in Q3, and I'll pop the little timer up for Q3 so you know where I am at. 11 minutes or so left to go in the session. Everybody coming out, obviously trying to get temperature in their tyres again. Still a wet-ish track. Still little puddles in places and still areas of the track that aren't fully dried up yet. And the track temperature, only 23 degrees C. So it's going to take a little while to get these tyres fully firing. And I'm sure the cars are fueled up for a few laps instead of just the 1 or 2. Alonso and Gasly showdown. Oh, that'd be nice. So tomorrow, we could have Alonso and Gasly on the second row together tomorrow. That'd be quite nice. Yuki looks like a different driver. Yeah, he does, Turan, to be fair. He looks good today. He looks very good today. It's because I put him in my predictions. I put Yuki Tsunoda as my driver to struggle for the weekend, and I did that on purpose so that he'd do well. No, it's just whoever I pick to do badly always just seems to have a fairly decent weekend overall. This livery is a tribute to Max Verstappen's helmet. I think Bottas just came at the wrong time. I mean, I think he just came at the time when they were looking for somebody to come in that wouldn't cause a ruckus, right? They'd just gone through that Hamilton-Rosberg era where they 3 or 4 years there with Hamilton and Rosberg like butting heads and continually trying to fight one another endlessly. I think they just wanted somebody to come in and just play sort of a fairly dumbed down, fairly simple role in the team, and someone who they could be like, right, you are definitely the second driver. That's just the way it is. There we go. Yuki took that prediction personally. He does watch the stream, Yuki. I've heard. He's a big fan. One of the 3,860 subscribers we've now got, heading towards 4,000 incredibly quickly. If you haven't subscribed, just do it. If we could get 3,900 during the Turkey stream tomorrow, I would be blown away by that. So we're heading towards that as quickly as we possibly can. But we've got 8.5 minutes of qualifying to worry about first as we're on board with Gasly. Let's see where Gasly can go. Third fastest, just behind both of the Mercedes cars. But remember, Hamilton drops down 10 positions. So anybody who qualifies third, fourth, fifth actually is going to be on the front or second row. Yeah, exactly. He came at a time where Toto Wolff was like, just bring in someone who isn't going to cause me to every single race have to sit down with 2 drivers that hate one another and have to talk them out of basically punching one another in the face every single race. Like, I think Toto Wolff had just, that 4 years with Rosberg and Hamilton has added like 35 years to Toto Wolff's life. Toto Wolff might have lived to 100. Now he's only going to live into his 60s because of that 4 years. Like, that ruined him. He had so much to do and so much controversy to deal with, and oh my goodness me. But to be fair, they held it together. They won the championships continually, and obviously Rosberg got that one championship win in 2016 and called it a day. But did Yuki really subscribe to your channel? No, Yuki Tsunoda has no idea who I am. I think most Formula One content creators don't have a clue who I am, to be honest with you. I can't remember who I messaged. I messaged someone about a collab the other day, and they'd never even heard of me before and didn't respond. So there we go. And they've only got like 30,000 subscribers or something. So bold of you to assume I'm not Yuki Tsunoda here right now. I mean, I've never seen you and Yuki Tsunoda in the same room, so could be. Don't text and drive. Here we go then. 6.5 minutes left to go. Leclerc has struggled so far, Q1 and Q2. Yeah, I mean, it hasn't looked great for Ferrari overall. Like he needed Carlos Sainz to do him a massive favour in the last session to get him through into this session. But we've got 6 minutes or so left. Some people coming in for a change of tyres. Let's see then. Bottas is currently fastest. Hamilton, Verstappen, Gasly, Perez are top 5. Alonso, Norris, Leclerc, Tsunoda, and Stroll 6th through 10th place there. So Leclerc, the only man actually on track in 8th place. As we're just watching an onboard Lando Norris sitting in the garage getting prepped and ready to go for his final flying lap. Again, it'll be interesting to see whether they go for 1 lap or 2 here, because the track is sort of bedding in a little bit. But ooh, who's that? Charles Leclerc. yeah, the track is bedding in a little bit, but to get temperature in the tires would be something quite tricky. Lance Stroll, our pole position sitter here last year. And it's Lewis Hamilton who's going to come out first. 5 minutes left, so he's going to go for the couple of laps approach. He'll do 1 lap to try and get some temperature in his tyres, then maybe another build-up lap, and then a final flying lap, I'd imagine, from Lewis Hamilton here. I saw a video talking about this. Imagine you're Bottas in P1, about to win your first race this season. Lewis is in P2 and needs to get P1 for the championship. I think, I think just Bottas has been such a consistently good team player every single season, all the time for Mercedes. So he probably would just move out of the way. And I know that would be really frustrating for Bottas and for his fans, because it'll probably be the likely, after this year, he's very unlikely to ever win a Formula One race again. I think, this season is his last opportunity to get a win in Formula One. But I think Bottas probably would let him past. He's such a good professional and such an incredible teammate to Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, I think Bottas would let him past. Let's see then. 3 minutes to go, or 3.5 minutes or so to go. Hamilton, Leclerc, and Tsunoda, the guys on outlaps. Hamilton actually now starting his first of what I'd imagine is going to be a couple of flying laps, maybe even 3 flying laps if he wants to get them in. Lewis Hamilton here on the soft compound tyre. Gasly in 4th. You're one of the 5 YouTube content creators I follow, so don't think you changed. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. Oh no, I'm not worried about it. It's just one of those things, like, unless you have literally equal subscriber count with someone, they just don't bother. Like they just sort of ignore. Actually, the only person who genuinely, like, I think knows who I am might be Tomo F1. Because whenever I chat to him, he does always, like, recognize my name. Everyone else that I've been in, like, chats with or watched on Twitch or whatever, not a clue. Lewis Hamilton, though, goes fastest in the first and second sector. 2.5 minutes left to go. Everybody is now coming out for that outlap. So it looks like people might go for a couple of laps if they can. Although I'd imagine we're going to see some traffic towards the end. Lewis Hamilton coming around the final sector, goes fastest of everybody by 0.2 of a second. 1 minute 22 from Lewis Hamilton. We're getting there. Oh, it's a new track record for Lewis Hamilton. Very nice indeed. Although, yeah, last year, wasn't it like an ice rink, effectively? Like, last year's track was the slipperiest thing you've ever seen. It's properly rubbered in this year, though, and it looks like it's much nicer to drive for those guys out there. As we look now at Max Verstappen, can he get anywhere near Lewis Hamilton's time at the top in the beautiful white Red Bull? And a dedication to Honda. Here we go then. On the left-hand side of the track. Most underrated. Oh my god! Like, let's not. We can. We're getting there. We're growing. We're growing and glowing. We're growing, glowing and growing. Every single race. So we're just having fun. And we'll see what happens. Max Verstappen, though, coming across the line for his first and final flying lap, because there's only a minute left on the clock. Here we go. Max Verstappen. This is going to be it, because Gasly as well goes fastest in the first sector. Wow, this is going to be close between quite a few different cars here. Hamilton obviously has got another lap in him. Let's just see which cars are going to get across the line in time. So Gasly's probably going to be the last car to cross the line. And then everybody behind him. So Perez is going to be first across the line once the checkered flag goes down, by the looks of things. So Verstappen is going to come across the line fairly early here with Hamilton, Bottas, and those guys behind. Gasly does come across the line now, and it's a slow final sector for Gasly. Unfortunately, he only goes 4th fastest, but he's got one more lap in him, whereas Sergio Perez and Verstappen have not. We're going to see the checkered flag come down now then, and let's see. We've got Gasly. Yeah, Gasly's going to be last to come across the line. Sergio Perez and Verstappen are going to be the first couple. So let's see where they can put themselves in and amongst it. Perez goes 5th fastest right now. Verstappen improves, but still 3rd fastest. Bottas is going to be next then. Norris comes across the line, doesn't improve, goes 7th fastest. Alonso goes 5th. Here we go. Alonso goes 5th fastest ahead of Perez in the Red Bull. Bottas comes across, still 2nd fastest. Going to be Hamilton then. Is going to be coming across the line first, but obviously dropped down to 11th place. Stroll comes across the line, goes 9th fastest. Hamilton, a pretty poor 2nd sector from him. Don't think he's going to improve on his time. Doesn't, but is still on pole position. Hamilton, another incredible drive from him, gets the fastest time. Charles Leclerc pops up and goes 4th fastest. So who have we got left? Just Pierre Gasly to come across the line. Oh, and Yuki Tsunoda as well. If Yuki Tsunoda's on a lap, haven't looked whether Yuki Tsunoda's on a lap or not. But let's have a look. Is Gasly improving or is Gasly coming? No, I don't think Gasly's improving. So yeah, that is our qualification then. Hamilton is on pole, but that means that he is going to drop down to 11th. So Bottas and Verstappen are going to start on the front row of the grid. Leclerc and Gasly are our 2nd row. Alonso and Perez start side by side on the 3rd row of the grid. Norris and Stroll. And then it's going to be Yuki Tsunoda as well next to Sebastian Vettel, with Hamilton just behind those guys. Wow. Where did I say? I said Alonso front 2 rows, and he's just on the 3rd row. He's going to start 5th tomorrow. That's annoying. I was very close. I was very close in my prediction there for Alonso. I just felt like Alonso was going to be good. Felt like Alonso was going to be good. And he was. Here we go then. That is that's a tough one to take if you're Lewis Hamilton, I think, because it's a good spot. Like he's got the pole position. Obviously, does he get the tyre still? Yeah, he'll get the little tyre to take home, won't he? And that'll be nice for him. But starting from 11th, well, it's the best of a bad situation for Lewis Hamilton, right? It's the highest that he could have started tomorrow with that 10-place penalty. So not too bad. Do you think Alonso will get past Gasly in lap 1 tomorrow? Gasly and Alonso, it's so close between the two of them right now, isn't it? And Alonso does always make up places on the first lap. Like every single race, I think Alonso grabs at least a place or two on the opening lap. So it wouldn't surprise me. All that typing hurt my hands. Oh my God, yeah, you did. Just what on earth have you done? Alonso will be P3 by turn 3. Yeah, to be fair, he always makes up a couple of places. Always makes up a couple of places, does Alonso. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did manage to put himself up into P3 tomorrow. Alonso, though. Wow. And again, Alonso and Gasly, 8 points between them in the Drivers' Championship. And Alonso is going to be thinking, well, if I can get in front of him, he is just ahead of me there. If I can get in front of him, then I can try and make this happen and try and make things work for my team and extend their championship lead in the Constructors as well. But unfortunately, this time Alonso can't go straight at turn 1. Yeah, there's no cheat sheet for Alonso this one. Well done, dude. Appreciate your effort. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you stopping by. Where's the main camera? What do we want? Schedule. We want the schedule for tomorrow so we can chat about it. Same time tomorrow, 12:30. I'm sure at this moment Hamilton has more Pirelli tyres than Merc today. Hamilton's got so many of those tyres, right? There was a really good GIF that I saw on Twitter. I should have retweeted it. And it was like Hamilton Or it was like who was it? Lance Stroll, obviously, because it was this weekend last year that he managed to get the pole position. It was like Lance Stroll with his Pirelli tire, and it was like him cherishing it and like holding it and looking like wonderfully happy. And it was like Hamilton with his Pirelli tires, and it was just guys like unloading tires from a van effectively. So yeah, Hamilton's got quite a few of them. What's this, like 105th pole position for Lewis Hamilton? He's got a lot. So close. He's just one position behind starting P4. Yeah, I was close, but close doesn't get you wins. Got to be spot on. Does Vettel start in the top 10 then? Yeah, so Vettel will start 10th because he qualified 11th. Hamilton will drop down 10 places, so Hamilton will take 11th position, and Vettel will slot in P10. If you didn't know, Gasly loses the most number of places on lap 1 this season. That does not surprise me. That does not surprise me at all because he always gets the starts a little bit wrong. Although Hamilton's got the starts wrong over the last few races as well. I don't think we can forget that. So maybe starting 11th isn't great news for Hamilton if he's going to be 14th by the time it gets to tomorrow. 12:30, I wish. More like 7:30 for me. Oh, yeah, I probably should say all of these times are for me. So they're GMT. So you have to slightly adjust them depending on where you are in the world. But 12:30 tomorrow on Sunday. And actually, what is the time now? It is 2 o'clock. The first ever Patreon podcast is going to be out in about 15 minutes time. A brand new thing I'm starting. Obviously, completely up to you whether you want to get involved in that or not. If you want to get involved in the Patreon, it is the same amount as you would spend on like a good coffee or a pint. So if you want to buy me a pint, if you want to buy me a coffee, head over to the Patreon. That is the best place to support me, support the streams, apart from obviously supporting by watching. Like, the fact that you guys watch and like and enjoy is by far and away the best thing you can do for me, because it is just wonderful to sit down with you guys and have a little chat, talk through these qualifying sessions, and obviously tomorrow for the race as well. Weather report for tomorrow, I think, is still a little bit mixed. Let me have a little gander at the weather report for Turkey. Istanbul is where I want to go. Not Norwich, because nobody wants to know what the weather is like in Norwich, to be honest. Boring. Weather. Istanbul. Istanbul. There we go. It's 10 a.m. where you are. Oh, I have to get up early for the race. To be fair, there's going to be some races later on in the year. I think USA is at like midnight for me. So if you're looking forward to like a late night stream for me, where probably going to be a little bit delirious, then that's the one to be there. Istanbul weather report. Tonight looks like it's going to be showery and cold. Today, tomorrow, also, yeah, looks a little bit mixed. Could be a little bit of rain. 25% chance of rain tomorrow, according to this one. Petition for a Norwich Grand Prix. I was thinking of like going to a Grand Prix, but I don't know. What's the likelihood of me bumping into one of you guys at a Grand Prix? Probably very, very slim. Is there a preferred side of the track to start on this track tomorrow? Not really, just because it hasn't rubbered in the same way that other tracks have. Like, if you remember last year, it was like an ice rink. So, yeah, USA and Mexico are very late in the day for me, if I remember correctly. I was sort of looking at those because they're the next couple of races that are heading our way. But I'm going to end the stream there because it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been 1 week since you looked at me. And, no, it's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks since you looked at me. And, Verstappen is going to start behind Bottas tomorrow on the front row. Alonso starting 5th, though. What even is a Patreon? Patreon's like a website where you can make content for people who... I don't know, what's the best way to describe Patreon? It's like content plus basically. So like it's content that you have to subscribe to, and like it's basically on my Patreon. There's bonus streams, there's bonus podcasts that are going to be coming out, and there's bonus like episodes and videos that are going to go up on there that you wouldn't be able to watch on YouTube. You could only watch on Patreon, if that kind of makes sense. I don't know how best to describe Patreon, but yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Links in the description. I mean, the best way to describe it is probably for you to just have a little gander at it in the description, but it is all there. Also, I've got a link. I now have a link with Freetrade. So if you want to get involved in stocks and shares, if you want to get involved with Freetrade, I also have a link, an affiliate link with them. That is also in the description down below. And again, that's a really easy way of supporting me and the stream and yourself. So if you sign up with that link in the description, you get yourself a free share up to £200. So yeah, you get yourself a free share on me, and also I get a little bit of a kickback from you just getting a free share. So is it a one-time purchase? It's a monthly purchase on Patreon. Monthly purchase. So you pay for a month's chunk of content. But yeah, have a little look. It's up to you. It's not compulsory is the word I'm looking for. Anyway, I've got to go because I'm heading out this afternoon and have some stuff to set up for tomorrow as well, because we are back again, as I said, 12:30 tomorrow for the stream. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you next time.